Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast.
You are now tuned in to this episode of our podcast. Today, we are going to interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. And now, please welcome your host.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And we're back. It's always great to have Jack Ciattarelli with us. He ran for governor of New Jersey 4 years ago. He's running again, and he actually just came back from Israel. So welcome. Shalom.
Hey, Zev. Shalom. It was great to be in Israel and great to be back with you.
So, it used to be when people ran for office, especially in New York and New Jersey, they all ran to Israel. You ran. I don't see anybody else running to Israel.
I enjoy my trips to Israel. This was not my first time, nor will it be my last. But it was a great trip. We spent a couple of days with business leaders in Tel Aviv, and then certainly while in Tel Aviv, also met with political leaders there and in Jerusalem. And it was a great 5 days.
What impressed you? Because you came, I believe, the last time you were there was before October 7th, correct?
Last time was 2021 when I was running for governor. And you can just feel right now a little bit of difference in the country. People are galvanized, as they should be. And I found in support of the political leadership who's doing everything it can to protect its citizens and rid the region of terrorists.
It's a daunting task. I think, unfortunately, we're finding Democrats are abandoning Israel in the United States. And even Republicans, I think, are starting to abandon Israel from what I'm seeing.
I hear you on that, but they are an ally, one of our most critically important allies all around the globe. And I do think we need to stand strong with Israel. Of course, we all want peace. But the way to achieve that is by stopping with the terrorism and certainly releasing the hostages.
No, absolutely. And I think that, people in Israel galvanized. I think people in the Metro New York area, New Jersey, New York are also galvanized because Middle Eastern politics, of course, is very important. But in New York, there's a race for mayor, and Zohar Momdani is a front runner. He's anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic. And in fact, I had Shankov, a very well-respected Democratic consultant. He said that his rise in New York will help you in New Jersey in your race for governor.
Well, I certainly don't wish ill will on New Yorkers, nor do I want New Jersey to benefit for that reason. I wish he wasn't a candidate. It's my hope he won't win. There's no room for that kind of rhetoric in today's world, and it's hate-fueled rhetoric. And for him to say that Israel as a Jewish state doesn't have a right to exist, we know he's made a number of very offensive comments, even toward Italians. So the really alarming part to me is that my opponent endorsed him, and he's endorsed her. I've called on her to rescind that, to reject it. She has not. Josh Gottheimer, the Democratic congressman from North Jersey, has condemned Momdani, as has Josh Shapiro, the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania, but not my opponent.
Fascinating. So the race is on, and it's getting a little nasty. I've seen ads. I know you're a CPA. You're involved with finance. So the ads were saying, well, if Jack Ciattarelli becomes governor, he promised to raise sales tax 10%, and they have a recording. What's that all about?
Well, first of all, it's a lie. And the first signs of desperation are lying in politics. It's not a pretty business, Zev, and when it's played by indecent people, it can get downright ugly. I was at a forum where someone was asking me what the tax structure was in other states. And I had made mention of the fact that I just came back from Tennessee, where there is no income tax, but a 10% sales tax on all items, including food and clothing, which are sales tax exempt in New Jersey. And all I was doing was stating what the tax structure is in Tennessee. I never said that was the tax structure for New Jersey, but they've turned it into a big lie. And again, I think it's a desperate act by a desperate campaign on the behalf of a desperate candidate.
What impresses me, I'm not so impressed by it, but it makes an impression on me, is the fact that both in New York and New Jersey, when candidates run, they're running not so much against Jack Ciattarelli. In your case, they're running against Donald Trump. And they say, well, if you vote for Jack Ciattarelli, it's MAGA. He's going to be voting for Donald Trump. He's not on the ballot, but yeah, I see that. Is that an effective tool? Because I keep seeing it over and over again in different races.
I think it's a failed strategy. Actually, Donald Trump polls as well as Phil Murphy in New Jersey. He got 500,000 more votes in 24 than Phil Murphy got in 21 in my very, very close race. And let's take a look at what he's done for New Jersey. He's put a halt on the wind farms off the Jersey shore. He's beaten up on New York Democrats over that congestion pricing plan, which I think is an egregious money grab on New Jerseyans. And he's quadrupled the SALT deduction on our federal tax returns from 10 to 40,000, has doubled the child care tax credit for parents with young children. He doesn't tax tips, overtime, and Social Security any longer. And he's created a magnificent tax credit program for people who send their children to private school. And we know there are a great many Jewish people that do that. And I will opt into that program as governor. Hochul has said she won't. Newsom has said he won't. And my opponent won't. But those are all the things that Donald Trump has done that are good for New Jersey. So I think it's a failed strategy on their part. I'm going to go out there and continue to talk about all the things that bother New Jerseyans every single day. And I need to tell you, Donald Trump isn't one of them.
Will Donald Trump be out there campaigning for you between now and Election Day?
We certainly are in communication with the White House about different ways that they could be of assistance to the campaign. And I really appreciate their help in offering up whatever it is we think could be helpful. So, yes, we're going to look to leverage that as best we can.
I was talking to one of my listeners from Lakewood, New Jersey, and he was stating to me that it's an unfair situation. You mentioned schools and parochial schools. He says he's paying his taxes, and he is also paying tuition for yeshiva, for day school. He said it's unfair that he's not only not getting the benefit from it, he has to pay. It's like double taxation. I mean, he shares the sentiments of many, not just Jewish, but also Catholics and other religious parents that send the kid to public school where they're not getting benefit. It's a double taxation. I don't know what it is. Is it $30,000 per child that New Jersey spends on public education? And they feel that there's injustice here.
He is spot on, Zev. If you send your child to private school in New Jersey, you're paying for schools 3 times. Your property tax pays for your local public school district. Your income tax is paying for districts in places like Newark and Atlantic City and Trenton. And then your pocketbook is paying for your private school tuition. And the flip side of that calculus you never hear about. If all the children that went to private school went through our public school system, the public school system would be a hell of a lot more expensive than it currently is. So that's one of the reasons why I support vouchers, the kind of programs we've seen in places like Arizona and Ohio and Florida. And I certainly support school choice. And, we need equity when it comes to the funding of public education, and also some type of tax break for those that send their kids to private school.
Oh, I totally agree with you. People have approached the idea with me that if, let's say, all the religious schools, let's say Lakewood, New Jersey, and the Catholic schools all enroll in public school, the numbers must be very high. It could be 50,000 or more. It would strain the system, send the message. Do you think that's an idea?
I think in Lakewood alone, you've got 30,000 K through 12 students, 24,000 go to private school. What would happen to the public school system if all those children went to the public school system? I think we know what the answer is. So that's at the heart of the matter.
If they registered on registration day, would that send the message to lawmakers? So some people said they're afraid they're going to be accepted to the school and they won't be able to go back to the yeshiva or to their other school.
Right. So, I certainly look at the big picture when it comes to this issue. It's why we have to do something for parents who send their kids to private school.
Now, there is, I think you may have alluded to it earlier, President Trump, there's a legislation that each state has to opt into, which will help fund, private schools and parochial schools, but each state has to sign in. So as governor, you would have that opportunity to sign in. If you don't opt into it, then you wouldn't get the tax break. You wouldn't get the tuition break.
You're exactly right. And so it's a pretty significant tax credit for each child that's sent to private school. But again, you have to opt in. And as governor, I will. My opponent said she will not.
That's a big thing. So how is the race going for you in the Jewish community? I know you've been going to different places and I hear different events. I saw you at a Jewish Business Alliance event just a few weeks ago. How is it coming along?
Really well, Zev. And I know I'm going to sound immodest for a second, but no candidate has spent as much time in the Jewish community as I have. But then again, I'm up and down the state 8 days a week and been doing this now for almost 4 years since the time we lost that close election. So there isn't a community in New Jersey I don't spend time in. But I'm always happy to be in our various Jewish communities around the state, whether it's Teaneck, Tenafly, Jackson, Toms River, Lakewood, of course, Linden, Jersey City. And I want all people across New Jersey to feel safe. But we know that anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. And I want our Jewish citizen and residents to know that as governor, I'll appoint an attorney general and a superintendent of the state police that are sensitive to the needs and concerns of our Jewish citizens.
Our guest is gubernatorial candidate for New Jersey, Jack Ciattarelli, running as a Republican. He ran 4 years ago, is running again now. Very, very tough race and a nasty race, right? You would characterize it as a nasty race, right, Jack?
Well, listen, I would not characterize what we're doing as nasty. We're very, very fact-based in what it is that we do. The tail doesn't wag the dog here. I have final say on all content, whether it's on the radio, on a billboard, or on TV. And I always try to be fact-based in what we do. So whenever you see us going quote-unquote negative, it's usually us actually featuring the opponent in her own voice, in her own videos of what her positions are. And I think her positions are terribly inconsistent with what it is New Jerseyans want. But Zev, let me say this. We saw this with John Corzine. He wasn't from New Jersey, and that didn't work out so well. We saw it with Phil Murphy. He's not from New Jersey, and I think his administration has been a failure. My opponent's not from New Jersey, and it's the reason why you see her ducking appearance after appearance after appearance. Channel 2 out of New York, WCBS, tried to have the third debate. She rejected it. I was with one of our largest advocacies for the business community this morning. She did not appear. She rejected it. And now she's going out of state here in the prime time of the campaign season. So, you know, my attitude is if you want to interview for this job, do your damn homework and show up. She hasn't.
Shouldn't it be mandatory there should be more debates than they currently are? It just seems that people want to see more of these discussions, debates.
I agree with you, Zev. I mean, by law, there are two, and she'll participate in those two. But let me tell you, if it wasn't the law, she wouldn't even participate in those.
So what are some of the cutting issues? I know you mentioned anti-Semitism, and the problem is that even when they're caught, they get away with it, and they can do it again and again. And it's my belief, I think we've discussed it before, when you have crime being rampant and there's no consequence or serious consequence for doing criminal acts, then you can feel emboldened to attack Jews and other people. So it's all part. If we reduce the crime problem, it'll help mitigate some of the anti-Semitism too, at least in my opinion.
Well, you're touching upon something that really is on the minds of a lot of people, and that there needs to be a consequence. There must be a consequence for breaking the law. And certainly posing a threat to anyone can be in violation of the law. We need to put teeth behind these hate crimes. But, you know, we're not seeing it. What happened in Secaucus last weekend is another example of there being no consequence, no respect for law and order, no respect for law enforcement, where a mob took over an entire intersection in downtown Secaucus. We've seen this at the Jersey Shore with the flash mobs. We've seen this with some anti-Semitic acts, what took place on our college campuses. There has to be a consequence to bad behavior. When there's not, you need to worry seriously about a whole lot of things breaking down in the community that kind of lead to chaos, mayhem, and self-destruction.
You know, if you get to be governor and this is not solved, will President Trump send troops in New Jersey?
Well, what I've said is he won't have to worry about that, because as governor, I'll make sure there's law and order. I'll make sure we have safe communities. I'll make sure that no one feels threatened. I'll make sure that our local law enforcement professionals can do their job. We're taking the handcuffs off. So, again, whenever anybody's asked me about that, President won't have to worry about sending the National Guard in New Jersey. We'll take care of matters right here.
Now, one of the other issues, of course, is jobs. It's also the economy. What can be done to stimulate business, including a lot of local businesses? I know in Teaneck and in Englewood and like a lot of Jewish small businesses. And from what I'm hearing, a lot of them are hurting, especially the restaurants.
What we desperately need is a pro-business governor, a pro-business administration, and pro-business policies. This administration has been anything but. I really believe that it's business that creates the tide that lifts all boats. And so 3 generations of Ciattarellis have all owned their own businesses right here in New Jersey. And I refuse to be the governor of a state that's ranked the worst in the country in which to do business. So we're going to lower business taxes. We're going to lessen regulations. We'll provide the necessary electricity. That's another thing right now that's causing a crisis all across the state. And certainly have to make sure the labor pool is there. And to achieve that, we just need a much more dynamic relationship between the Department of Labor and Department of Education. Is our educational system producing the talent that our businesses need in order to not just survive, but thrive?
What about taxes? Because this region in New Jersey has also a very high tax rate, and people are going to Florida en masse, they're going to Texas. What can be done to stop the drain of especially people who are affluent from leaving the state?
So what I'm going to do is very responsibly reduce the size and cost of our state government to afford a tax cut for businesses and individuals. Our business tax is now the highest in the nation. Pennsylvania is on the way to being half of ours. We need to compete. We don't want businesses choosing Pennsylvania over New Jersey. One of the primary reasons for my trip to Israel is that all these new companies that are thinking about expanding their footprint in the United States, we want them to do that in New Jersey. Israeli companies do $14 billion a year in bilateral New York, less than $2 billion a year in bilateral trade with New Jersey. There's nothing that that New York has that we don't. And so we need to compete. And we do that by lowering our tax rates, making it regulatory intensive, again, making sure there's a willing, able labor pool, and lowering the cost of electricity.
No, that's certainly a daunting task, and there's a lot of business to be done. It's just a question of stimulating the economy and getting, especially small business, I think they're a lifeline. Even some of the big companies have been suffering. You see the restaurant, even McDonald's has gone down in value, I saw recently.
Yep. So listen, it's across the board. And things I want to do to make New Jersey more affordable is do as they do in Pennsylvania. All retirement income should be tax-free. It is in Pennsylvania. It's not in New Jersey. Freeze property taxes for seniors once they hit age 70. Cap property taxes for first-time home buyers so they can help get started. The first 5 years of home ownership, cap it at 1% of the assessed value of the home. Make the first 2 years out of high school or college tax-free. These are all some of the things that we can do to make New Jersey more affordable, help people retire here, help people get a start here.
Now, the Jewish high holiday season is fast approaching with the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the Sukkot holiday. Any plans for you, Rosh Hashanah? You're going to be going different places, sampling some of the foods, or eating in the sukkah. I know that this is a time where you can go hopping from place to place.
And I'm looking forward to doing that. It was a lot of fun each and every year to do that, and got a lot of Jewish friends all around the state that are happy to help me with that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Do you have any special message for the new year for our audience?
Wishing everyone a wonderful and sweet new year. It's interesting how quickly it sneaks up on us. But as I say, you know, this next 62 days, this next 2 months are going to fly by at warp speed. So, but we certainly want people to participate in the election process. The Jewish community has a pretty good record of turnout. They're civically active and certainly participate in the election process. And it's always good to see. Whenever I talk to other minority groups all around the state, I usually reference the Jewish community as one that gets very, very involved with elections, and I think sets the standard for civic engagement and election process and election participation.
But how do we get even more people involved? Because the numbers are still not reflected. I believe it's Australia. There's mandatory voting. You must vote, otherwise you get penalized. We don't have the United States. Maybe it's not a bad idea to do so. But the fact is, though, there are plenty of people who don't vote. How do we get out? How do we motivate? Because it seems in the Democratic side, you have the most liberal, the most passionate come out. And then maybe on the Republican side, the most Republican, the more right.
Well,
how do you get everybody else to get involved?
Yep. I mean, Republicans are the minority party in New Jersey, and sometimes New Jersey is thought of as a deep blue state. It's not when it comes to gubernatorial elections. Republicans have won 6 of the last 11 governor races here in New Jersey. That doesn't sound like deep blue to me. So when you educate people about the fact that we do win governor races, my job is to inspire and compel and motivate the Republican Party, which again is the minority party here in the state. But I got to tell you, Zev, given all the things that people are really upset about, whether it's their monthly electricity bill, their property tax bill, public safety, public education, overdevelopment in some of our communities, there's a whole lot of reason to come out and vote this year. And you're never going to hear me say that this is the most important election of our lifetime. I believe every election is equally important for different reasons. But I will tell you, I really do believe the future of our state hangs in the balance. We cannot afford another 4 years of Phil Murphy policies. And my opponent is Murphy 2.0. We can't afford that. So I'm hoping that alone compels people to get out.
But we're going to have you on again. So we appreciate you being with us. Thank you for going to Israel. And I know, like I said, I used to love when I used to hear everybody went to Israel. Now it's relatively few candidates that go to Israel. So I'm glad that's part of your tradition.
Well, it's a trip I truly enjoy. And one of my bucket list items is to get there again with my 4 children. I'm certainly going to get back there again as governor, but I do want to get there with my 4 children. I think it would be a great, great family experience.
No, certainly will be. Jack, thank you, and look forward to having you back in very, very soon.
Thank you, Zev.
Jack Ciattarelli, running for governor on the Republican line in New Jersey.
Thank you for tuning in to
Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Anyway, great job.